like my hat?
I do like your hat, Anastasia. Is that a new purchase or is that a gift from Craig?
No, this was actually a gift from my friends. If you listen to the pod, I talked about some friends who had gone over for the first 4 days of Roland Garros, and they just got back to New York, and they brought me a hat.
That's nice.
Unfortunately, they were rained out the whole time.
Well, I mean, depends on your point of view, because I listened back to your conversation with Craig, and he was like, they didn't rain out. They just didn't stay late enough.
They just didn't stay late. And that's the thing. You know, it's not everyone is like us who just watch tennis nonstop and stay on the ground still super late. Some people have lives. We don't. No, we do. We have lives. We just really, we prioritize tennis a lot. How have you been? How's it going?
Oh, there's been plenty of tennis to watch. I've basically been in a tennis bubble for 2 weeks and told everyone that not to bother me, essentially. There have been no social engagements. It's been all French Open, Roland Garros, and I don't think I can be blamed, especially after the last couple of days. I mean, I've been frantically catching up on the matches from today because I've had work. So I couldn't catch any, I didn't see stuff live. So I have caught up on probably the bigger headline match, but still got a bit to get to.
Yeah. So let's catch up on some tennis. So the last episode you might have been listening to, Ground Passers, was the one that I did with Craig Shapiro. Please go back and listen to that if you haven't. It started off talking about the experience of going to the French Open. I learned a lot myself from listening to that episode. I think something that has come up since I recorded that episode that we talked about is how the biggest court, so Philippe Chatrier is like their headline court, it can be empty in the mornings, like during the first match. And people watch that and say, well, I thought this tournament was sold out. Like, why are all these empty seats if the tournament's sold out? Well, come to find out, there's a whole hospitality package thing going on and everyone's just having lunch and wine. And that's why they're not in their seats. So it's a very interesting tournament. And I enjoyed learning about it and like what the ticket prices are, what the grounds are like. So that was a fun episode to listen to. Go catch up on that. The last match we were talking about on that podcast was from June 2nd. We're recording this on June 5th. Was the Sinner Mutet match. So let's just play catch up. We're not going to hit every match because then this podcast will be 4 hours long. But we're going to just play catch up and get us all caught up before we jump into, semifinals, finals, and then we do a review of the whole tournament. So catching up, where do we start? I made a little rundown. So let's start with that. So first thing I want to catch up on is like one of the cutest things that has happened this tournament. Have you seen this fan of Alex de Minaur?
Paul. Yes.
Paul. First of all, just the best story. So I think it was, let me look up that day and see what match it was. But I can't remember. Huh?
Was it against Struff? In the third round.
Yes. It was his match against Struff. He had this fan just yelling and screaming and supporting him throughout, which Alex de Minaur noticed and went over after the match, gave him a towel, hugged him. I mean, it's the cutest video you've ever seen. I will link it below in our show notes. But then he just invited him to come to every match, every practice, just hang out with him. And do you remember Eddie from the US Open?
Oh, I do remember Eddie. He was one of these stories of the US Open.
Yeah, I don't know if this is now a thing every single slam, but first of all, Paul and Eddie could be brothers. It's kind of crazy how much they look alike, but I just love this. And the funny thing I love about it is I think Alex de Minaur was talking about how, he was going to come hang out with him and he was bringing his coach and his teammates. So from that, I understood to mean that he plays tennis. And can you imagine that experience, being that age, coming to hang out with your favorite pro tennis player? I mean, I won't be surprised if Paul is playing tennis in a few years on the tour.
That would be, would be a wonderful addition to that would be with Alex de Minaur as his coach.
Come on. Gods above, if you hear us, like, we're writing this story, it will be so much fun. Can you imagine the stories? That would be so fun. It would be one of those highlight reel moments.
I mean, how old is Paul, though? Because I feel like...
I'm not sure. He looks about sort of maybe 12.
How old's de Minaur now? De Minaur's still pretty young. So that would have to involve de Minaur maybe having a horrific end to his career.
No, we do not want that, because he's right now playing against Alexander Zverev in their quarterfinal match. Zverev has taken the first set, and I believe they're still on. Are they on serve on the second?
No, it's not on serve. Zverev is serving 3-2 up.
Oh, and he's broken in the second. So Zverev for now has the lead. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll tell you the scores when we're done recording. If the match is over or not, it probably won't be. Best of 5. But yeah, so that was a really great story from the couple of days that we've missed. Something else that I think we need to talk about too, because it's big news in tennis, is Novak Djokovic being out of the tournament. Have you watched any of his matches this tournament at all?
I mean, one of them I fell asleep halfway through. Because it was being played
3 a.m. one
at 3 a.m. Actually, it wasn't even 3 a.m. my time. It was 2 a.m. my time, but it's still way too late for me. And then the other match against Cerundolo, I did watch that one because I was interested to see how Novak will recover. I think when was the Cerundolo match? Was 2 days ago, right? It was on Monday.
Yeah.
So I think I went. I had to come back. So basically, again, it was a working day. I wasn't in, I couldn't watch the start of it. And then I went, hold on a sec. Cerundolo's made this a settle. I need to go home. I need to get home and as quick as I can after work and catch this. And yeah, that was definitely a roller coaster for Djokovic again. And credit to him, he fought his way through. And I thought, okay, this guy is just is not losing, because I think we were having conversations around his motivation at this point and whether that was affecting his year. It's very clear that he desperately wanted to win both those tennis matches. So clearly that wasn't the problem. What was the problem was his body. Turns out he's got a knee problem.
Yep. He had in his press conference, he said he had a previous knee injury. He didn't really say injury. He just said it's sort of an issue. And I think people showed some taping that was on his knee before the Cerundolo match. He went into that match. I think he had a medical timeout for the knee, and then he fell at some point, but he won the match. Like he fell early on in the match. It was a 5-setter. And he won in 5 sets. I mean, at that point, I was thinking like you. I mean, that's it. Like, he's winning the tournament. He's Superman. Nothing can happen to him. And then cut to the next day. I mean, before the next day, I think in his press conference, he had said they're going to check out the knee and he doesn't know if he's going to play. But I think we've all heard that from Novak before, and then he goes to win the tournament and then we all have egg on our face. So I didn't really believe that. But turns out it was a serious issue and he has withdrawn for the tournament. Apparently he's going straight into surgery, and this throws a lot of things. He had surgery today. Wow. So that really just throws a lot of things up in the air. You know, does he play Wimbledon? How will he show up for the Olympics?
It's looking highly unlikely. I mean, it depends on the extent of the damage. So Taylor Fritz, I can't remember what it was. Was it last year or the year before? He had surgery on a similar injury. In fact,
it had to be the year before, maybe.
Yeah, he was back on court within 3 weeks.
Okay.
So it depends on the extent of the injury. If it is, it's literally going to be Djokovic is going to be jumping straight into Wimbledon. If not, then it may well be that he's missing Wimbledon, and then it's a race to see if he's going if he can get to the Olympics, which is obviously a big goal for him. It's the last big prize that he's not won. But if Djokovic doesn't play Wimbledon, then that leaves the door wide open for the next generation to take over. Well, two members of the next generation, the one, the only right. Sincaraz.
The one and only Sincaraz. And, if that happens, I think it'll be the first time in a long time that a lot of casual fans or just fans in general, where there'll be none of when you consider the big four, right now, at least, it looks like Andy Murray is going to play Wimbledon for right now. But for most people, there'll be no Nadal, no Roger, no Novak. And I think that will be a big, big change for a lot of people. But then we get to sort of see where the new generation's at. We're already seeing it now. We're already seeing it now in Roland Garros. So Sincaraz Part 9 is going to happen.
Is that Part 9 including the Challenger match they played?
I think it is not. It is not including the Challenger match. Because I think if you include the Challenger match, then the head-to-head will be 5-4. But right now, the head-to-head is 4-4. And I think that doesn't include the Challenger match.
No, I don't think it does. It's a point of contention for a particular friend of ours. And those who obviously value the Challenger Tour, which obviously I think will probably grow since the movie came out. But Sincaraz Part 10, Part 9.
Part 10?
Depending on
the beginning.
How you count it, is coming, and it's coming on Friday. And obviously we know, like, every match they play is a battle. The winner of that match is probably going to be the favourite for the title. I think it's going to be a fascinating dynamic. We don't really make predictions on this podcast, so I'm not going to do that. But I have an idea of where I think that's going to go. But having said that, it will be Jannik Sinner's first match, knowing that he is the world number one on the ATP Tour. It's not official. He's kind of the crown prince, if you will. He will be confirmed on Monday, but it's kind of a done deal at this point. And I think a perfect match for him to kind of go out and show why he's got that status now. First Italian man to do it.
No, the math is definitely mathing. And with Novak out of the tournament, Jannik Sinner is your new ATP world number one starting Monday. And, it's funny too, because both their qualifying matches, Carlos and Sinner, to get into the semis to play together were against one-handed backhanders. Sinner defeated Grigor Dimitrov, who I think was just sort of out of gas in that match. If you haven't seen the round 4 match between Grigor Dimitrov and Hubie Hurkacz, please go see it, because chaos ensued. And it was I live tweeted it or posted it, so you can find all the old posts on Ground Pass, on Threads, or on RNX. But it was the most entertaining match ever that I didn't expect to be entertaining, because Hubie Hurkacz, his matches are usually these sort of baseline rallies that go all the way to tie breaks, and he has a million tie breaks. He's just known for that. But in this one, I think he tried to start a mutiny in the middle of the match to remove the umpire, which was hilarious.
I heard about this. I have not seen it. Hubert Hurkacz is also one of the most unlikely people to have caused that, given how mild-mannered he usually is. So yes. I was surprised by the match by that, but Hurkacz was a player I thought was going to do quite well, and Dimitrov, however, has the superior head-to-head over him, so I'm not surprised that he managed to frustrate her catch. And, Dimitrov did well. He's finally competed the set. He's now been to the quarterfinals of every slam.
Yes, he has. With Carlos was playing against Tsitsipas, and I think
it's another one-sided head-to-head.
Yeah, Stefanos Tsitsipas has a Carlos Alcaraz problem, and
he's the only man on the planet who does.
Yes, it seems like it, but he talked about it in press and how he thinks there's voodoo going on, and maybe there's just something happening on court when he plays with Carlos. But it was a hilarious press conference that he gave after. And, I think that's just what it is sometimes with players. They have these sort of lopsided head-to-heads with different opponents. And for me, the fun usually comes is when are they going to break that head-to-head? Like, when are they going to make a breakthrough? Because you look at someone like Sinner and Medvedev, for example. Sinner and Medvedev had a lopsided head-to-head until Sinner turned it around, and now he leads it. So it's stuff that it happens in tennis, and I'm just happy we get another Sincaraz, because I think I posted about this. For me, they're the new Fadal. And I didn't realize we were going to get a rivalry like this so early after Roger was done. But I think their rivalry is gonna be exciting going forward.
This is in danger of potentially going too deep into the tennis iceberg here, or maybe going a bit too complicated for people who are kind of getting newer to this. But as tennis fans, we have the live rankings, which is kind of unofficial tally following it, like that we have through tournaments, that we can see where everyone's moving up to kind of in real time, rather than waiting and trying to do it in our heads in preparation for Monday. If Carlos Alcaraz wins the French Open, he will move ahead of Novak to world number 2. And obviously Novak not playing Wimbledon would potentially seal that anyway. But even with that to me kind of would signify these two are the ones who are now moving in front. This doesn't necessarily mean that Novak's out the door yet. I think he still has something to say in the upcoming story, but it does suggest that their era has now officially begun. That's it. Obviously, there's a long way to go. Sinner could beat Alcaraz on Friday. Alcaraz could lose the final to Zverev or Ruud or Diminor.
Right. But yeah, so exciting things going on the ATP side, which the last note I'm going to say on it, we came into this French Open thinking, wow, wide open, Sinner, Carlos injured, what's going to happen? So it's really interesting now that they're fine and and here they are in the semifinals of Roland Garros. But, okay, WTA, onto the WTA. So who can stop Iga? Nick, you're the Iga expert. So who can stop Iga Swiatek?
I'm not an expert because, I've called so many things wrong before, and I'm currently, since the Naomi match, I am refusing to say one way or another whether someone can stop Iga or not, because we all went into that Naomi match thinking Iga was going to win that one. Not necessarily easily, but straightforwardly-ish. Yes. And that did not happen. So I am refusing to suggest the same thing for until and unless she lifts the trophy for what will be the 4th time. I mean, we're looking at your comment earlier about sort of when is someone going to make a difference in that head-to-head. She's got Coco Gauff in the semi-finals. Iga kind of, I haven't really talked about results yet, but Iga dismissed Vondrousova in the quarterfinals and Potapova in 40 minutes, which is the quickest anyone's won a WTA match since the Steffi Graf era. And
Iga had places to go and things to do, and she just had to go.
It was insane. That Vondrousova win, she got in 1 hour and 2 minutes. I genuinely watched the entire match on my lunch hour at work. Like, that was like, oh, look, it's 12:30. This is a good time to take lunch. Oh, Iga's starting. Okay, well, oh, no. Oh, my word. This is incredible. Coco's been in the mix as well. She dismissed Cocciaretto. She got through a tricky match with Jabeur, actually. That ended up being a bit of a tussle. Ons maybe could have made it closer than it actually was. What I would say about that but then we've got Iga and Coco in the semi-finals. It's 10-1 in the head-to-head. And it's going back to what you said before with when is someone going to make an impact in that head-to-head. This is the 12th time they've played, the second time in a couple of weeks because they played in Rome semi-finals as well. And there's something in the back of my head that's kind of going, at what point does Goff say, no, I'm here and I'm going to be a real challenger to you now? It's the third year in a row they will also played Roland Garros, by the way. So that does seem to be a mini Roland Garros rivalry going on between those two. So it's one of those things, like at what point does Goff get another win? Because I don't want to assume she's going to get dismissed again. That being said, Iga is in incredible form, and there's a part of me that thinks that Naomi woke something within her a little bit, and we seem to be getting the 2022 Iga back. But we were seeing hints of it anyway. Like she's been just monstrously hitting winners the entire time. It does help her situation though. She gets through Goff. She's going to be playing someone in the final who doesn't have the experience of being in that situation before, much to most of our surprises.
Yes. Before we get into her possible opponent in the final, just a little bit on Coco Gauff, because I think coming into this tournament, and I don't think this is in general a thought in the wider world of fans of Coco Gauff or people who watch tennis, but Coco's form has been questioned, I think. She's had some interesting losses and maybe not really great matches that have people questioning her form and her tennis, but she keeps getting to the semifinals of these Grand Slams.
So the third one in a row.
Right. So it's something, I think we've mentioned this before. Her coach is Brad Gilbert, who wrote the book Winning Ugly. And I think she's just the embodiment of that person. She might not be hitting her strokes. Her serve might not be working, but she wins matches. And I think that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, it's what the scoreline is at the end.
This is what I've been arguing for weeks, because Coco Gauff has been winning as many matches as the other three members of the top four in the world, Swiatek, Sabalenka, Rybakina, losing about as many matches as Sabalenka and Rybakina. Has she been doing it in the same kind of way? No, apart from maybe this French Open and a certain extent in Rome. She's getting the job done, and that doesn't matter. Like, you win matches, you grit them out. You are the best, one of the best in the world, legitimately. I think she's a headache for Sabalenka. We know that. She hasn't played Rybakina in 2 years. We don't know. It's that Iga matchup that she needs to make some inroads in. Interestingly, with Coco, actually, you're talking about her form. Apart from losing to Katerina Siniakova in Doha, she's lost to players on hot streaks this year. I'm thinking of Kalinskaya in Dubai, who then took out Iga. I'm thinking of Sakkari in Indian Wells, who was one of these stories of that tournament. She lost to Kostyuk in Stuttgart. She lost to Madison Keys in Madrid, who was looking very, very good this clay season. She's not losing to she's not giving up easily, and like all of those went 3 pretty much. She's very, very hard to beat, and that's being reflected because, again, live ranking update, because of the results today, Coco Gauff will be the world number 2 on Monday.
Yeah, there you have it. So it's been an interesting storyline, but I've always kind of gone with the result at the end of the day. And, some people might not like to watch ugly tennis, which I completely understand. Some people don't like grunting. Some people don't like, whatever it is, a style of a different player. But at the end of the day, I think she has to be in the conversation as someone who is now going to be on Monday the world number 2 on the WTA.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You just said that. Do you think Coco Gauff plays ugly tennis?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, I actually do. Like it's weird to me that Brad Gilbert is now her coach because her tennis is very choppy. And I think what gets her wins is her athleticism as an athlete. Like she is an elite athlete. I think her lungs are just massive and she's super powerful, super quick. And that's what gets her wins. She's working on her technique. Like we see it, her serving now is so good. She's still working on it. So I think she gets a lot of double faults because she hasn't like wrangled her serve yet. But when it is on, I mean, she's hitting some massive, massive serves.
She is. And her backhand is huge as well. Like,
yeah.
That is a monstrous weapon on the tour. The thing that's me and like the forehand's becoming something that she's more and more confident hitting through. It is very spinny, but I quite like watching high top spin style tennis, as you would expect. So I don't think that, I don't see Goff's style of tennis as being ugly. I see it as being different. It's probably more along the lines of the sort of thing that I prefer to watch. I think the winning ugly thing to me comes more from winning despite not playing your best level, which I think is something that Goff is very, very good at doing, is probably where a lot of her success has come from. Because I still don't think we've seen peak Coco Gauff yet.
No. I mean, again, in terms of winning ugly, I mean, like, I like your definition of it. I don't mean ugly as in ugly versus pretty. Because I tend to, you know how everyone always says, like, Roger Federer is such a pretty, his tennis is just so beautiful. I've never understood that. Like, I'm just like, I don't know, his backhand looks great, but it's hard for me to sort of say tennis is pretty versus tennis is ugly in that sort of aesthetic way. For me, tennis is either powerful or there's finesse or, that sort of thing. Like I look at it more that way. Winning ugly, I see more as playing, or it's winning despite having a bad day. Like you said, it's like, your serve isn't working. The forehand isn't working. Nothing's working, but you're winning the match. That's winning ugly for me. But we can talk so much about Coco Gauff and
I wanted to get the topic out there because again, we're into reaching out to casual fans here, and this is maybe topics that you might hear about and try and get into, but also it's about trying to understand sort of the way the game is played. And, as you watch more tennis, you are probably going to figure out a style you like watching more than others. For me, I like watching players that are a little bit on the edge, maybe invent something now and again. So that's sort of what I'm drawn to. But I know a lot of people who are just want to sit back and be in awe of someone who's able to hit 100-mile forehand every shot.
That would be me. That would be me. I love Aryna Sabalenka and the way she hits a ball. I love the grunting. For me, that sort of external sort of audio, like that grunt you can hear just shows, for me anyway, not really effort because I've seen people fake the grunt. But I love that sort of big hitting, big serving. Like that's the sort of tennis that I love. And that brings us to Aryna Sabalenka is out of the tournament.
No one saw that coming because she demolished her way through the draw. Not the same way Iga had been, apart from Naomi. But she was coming into the match today not having dropped a set in Grand Slams in 2024, which was an insane stat. And she was playing someone who she seemed to have a very comfortable matchup with. But two things happened. One, some kind of stomach cramps. Two, Mirra Andreeva showed up. She showed up. She was so good. I think she learned a lot from the last time they played, which was in Madrid. Yeah. And she went, okay, let's try this. it ended up being a very tight match because whilst Arena wasn't 100%, and she would, I think, whatever was bothering her was kind of causing her to make errors, or at least it was. I don't know because I'm not in her head. But it would be foolish for me to say they weren't connected. They might not have been connected, but like there were a lot of errors coming off the Sabalenka rackets day. But Andreeva was super tight, and that ended up in a very sort of clutch finale in in 3 sets that literally all could have gone either way. And at the end of the day, it was 2 moments of magic right at the very end of the match that secured 17-year-old Mirra Andreeva her first Grand Slam semi-final. And I can't believe this.
She's the youngest semi-finalist at the French Open since Martina Hingis.
Yeah, youngest Grand Slam semi-finalist since Hingis at the US Open in 1997.
Mirra Andreeva burst onto the scenes last year in Madrid, and she was just this spunky 16-year-old, just, loving on Andy Murray and, giving the best quotes to press in her press conferences. And she just seemed so happy and joyful. And, she gave a little bit of, the Carlos Alcaraz just smile and happiness. And I'm just happy to be here and play tennis and hit a ball and it's all great. But she had moments of she was 16. I remember very clearly her match in last year's French Open against Coco Gauff, where she just had a meltdown. It was the first time in the short time we had known her where I was like, oh, she's 16. Like, she's a baby. She needs time. And this year, coming into the French Open, I think actually maybe they started working together in Madrid.
Madrid, or just before, actually. I think actually she showed up in, was it Lyon? There was a tournament in France just before Rouen.
Just before
Madrid.
Okay. Yeah, so she now has a new coach in Conchita Martinez, and I can't help but feel that has been very helpful, not just to her game, but to her demeanor. Because this match against Aryna Sabalenka, the first set was so tight, and it went to a tiebreak, and she lost the tiebreak. And I feel Mirra Andreeva of last year would have been like, well, that's it, and just had lost the match. But she really came back strong and focused. And you're right in saying Aryna Sabalenka has something going on. I think she had a medical timeout, took some pills or something. In fact, there's been news that in the press, she didn't go to a press conference because she was still with the medical team, but she was going to give quotes later. So there's definitely something going on there. But I don't think that takes away at all from Mirra Andreeva, because I feel like this is the moment where a player could have mentally, gotten tight and lost the match, even though their opponent was hampered.
Yeah, I was talking to an Italian journalist friend of mine, Mario, who, and we both came to the same conclusion that only a minority of players could have beaten Aryna Sabalenka today, because she was playing through the pain and still hitting monstrous shots with power and with angles like she usually does. Like other players would have crumbled, but Mirra Andreeva is clearly a special breed. And I have a load of technical analysis I could go into. I'm not going to do that. That's not the place for that. But just the main thing that won it for Mirra was just she kept believing in this situation. She played the person in front of her as best she could, and that match point where she lobbed Aryna, just Andy Murray would be proud, which will probably make Mirra melt.
Yes,
I won't say that. But Andy Murray would have been proud of that match point win for Mirra Andreeva.
If you don't know our reference, but Mirra Andreeva had this moment, and I will find the video and link it in the show notes. But she definitely was very scared to meet Andy Murray and was his biggest fan. And then they finally got to meet this year, I think.
Met multiple times, I think.
But yeah, so I love that you actually ended. We're nailing the segue, Nick, in this one. But you talked about a lob, and which really, in a way, brings us to the next match, which is Jasmine Paolini takes out Elena Rybakina and is a semifinalist at Roland Garros. The reason the lob comes into question is because of height. Jasmine Paolini is 5'4", and I think Rybakina is like 6 foot tall, maybe more.
Yeah, she's over 6 foot tall, I think.
And watching them play, I was like, how is this going to go? You know, friggin' Elena Rybakina will just...
Wasn't it a similar dynamic between Maria Sharapova and Justine Henin?
True. Oh, that is such a good comparison. That is a really, really good comparison.
We are spending a lot of this podcast referencing players from the past, and we probably need to stop doing that. So for like people who may need to get caught up to speed very quickly, Conchita Martinez won Wimbledon in 1994, French Open finalist in 2000. She's now Mirra Andreeva's coach. Maria Sharapova, five-time Grand Slam champion from the 2000s, early 2010s, including twice at the French Open. And Justine Henin was a 7-time Grand Slam champion who played in the 2000s, particularly dominant at the French.
This is completely off topic, but a regular listener of the show, Felicia, loves the fact that Nick can just throw out these stats just on request. She calls you the encyclopedia of tennis. So there you go.
Clearly she needs to meet some other tennis people, because if you think my tennis knowledge is impressive, there are others out there who level of knowledge is insane. Although mine tends to be more about tennis history, whereas no, there's a couple of others who are on a similar level. She
loved your the little history clip I did that you did on Roland Garros. She loved that. She really loved that. Okay, back to what's happening. But you know, Jasmine Paolini is someone, and this actually, I'm going to make a little reel of something that Craig Shapiro said in our last podcast. And he was basically talking about the joy of Grand Slams being that first week on all the outside tiny courts where you find, you know, some player who's 50 in the world or 75 in the world, and you watch them win their matches and you get to know these new, you know, players trying to climb up the rankings. And I had that exact thing with Jasmine Paolini. The first time I heard about her was from another tennis podcast called Black Spin Global. They had been talking about her, and I was like, who's this Jasmine Paolini? And this was the US Open, not last year. I think it was maybe it was last year. And I think, yes, it was last year, because she played Yelena Ostapenko in the first round, and Yelena Ostapenko beat her. She at the time was like 35 in the world or something like that. But I loved the way she plays. She reminded me of Leila Fernandez, who's someone I love as well, where they do the little fist pump and they're always like cheering themselves on, and you can see them like really try. And I love an expressive player, and that's what Jasmine Paolini is. So I've been following her. You know, I watched her on court 12 at the US Open, and I've just been following her on TV. And, you know, I got to talk to her at the Miami Open this year, and that was really great. I'll link the video in our show notes, and just getting to know her and seeing her climb up the rankings. I think this is what Grand Slams are about. You find that new player. I mean, at this point, Paolini isn't new, by the way, because she won this match. She's now cracked into the top 10 on Monday. She's now number 10 in the world. But she showed a lot of gumption and was so gutsy in this match, because you look at her and you look at Elena Rybakina, and Elena Rybakina is this hard-hitting, 6 foot tall, number 4 in the world. Like, she is a great player. And Paolini stood her ground. And I thought it's my favorite match of the tournament so far, which is saying a lot, because I remember when I said like the Iga Naomi match was match of the year.
Nothing could compare to Iga Naomi.
I did. I said that.
I'm going to have to watch this match now, because I'm not convinced.
You do. But I really loved this match just for the feelings it gave me. You know, it really motivated me this morning. I had a smile on my face, and I was just like, I can take the day, because Jasmine Paolini just won against Elena Rybakina, and it was So, I mean, every single poll I've seen had it at like Elena 90% chance of winning, So it was the upset of the day, I think.
Well, until Andreeva beats Sabalenka.
That
But
too, yeah.
was a
Until that.
longer shot, given Andreeva's ranking, and also there are some people who did believe in Paolini.
Yeah.
So to pull something off here, her trajectory this year has been super impressive, and I think it's really lovely that you've been following her on this journey as she's kind of progressed through the rankings. And yeah, she's now one of the players to beat, and I'm fully expecting to see her at the tour finals this year. Side note, I really want to see a Paolini versus Fernandez match now, because that's just a battle of two small powerhouses.
Oh,
small package, big heart.
You know what? They have played this year.
I think they have.
I think they have played this year, and Paolini won. And I remember because I watched it and I was so excited, and I was like, it's the battle of this, just their little fist pumps. I'm like, you go, girl, you got this. But yeah, that was a fun little match. I'm excited to see the semifinal match between Paolini and Andreeva. That's gonna be blockbuster. Both semifinals are gonna be awesome. Iga versus Coco, and then Mirra versus Jasmine. It's gonna be a really, really solid semifinals at this year's Roland Garros. I'm really excited for both.
Yeah, definitely, and on the men's side too. By the way, I think this year's RG is definitely producing some really good, strong potential at the minute. Obviously, we don't know who's in all in the semi-finals yet. As it stands, Zverev and de Minaur are now in a second set tiebreak.
Ooh, okay.
De Minaur just had set point on the Zverev serve.
Okay, so we'll see where that goes when we're done recording. But a couple more things to talk about. Well, just one, really. I wanted to talk a little bit about doubles, because I feel like nobody's talking about doubles. And maybe because there are a lot of singles players in doubles this year, so I was watching them play. But for example, Coco Gauff and Jasmine Paolini are not only in the semifinals of singles, they're also in the semifinals of doubles with their partners. Like, that's
Please tell me they're in
super
opposite sides of the draw in the women's doubles draw as well, because that would be insane if there's a possibility of a Gauff Paolini women's doubles final and women's singles final.
I think they actually are going to play let me look this up. We should find out, but I think they are playing each other in the semis, which would be interesting. Give me a moment and I'm going to pull up the draw. Da-da-da. Yeah, this is where you play the hold music. Okay, so I've pulled up the draw, and there is a possibility of Coco Gauff and Jasmine Paolini playing each other in the finals of the doubles tournament.
It's perfect.
Perfect. So good. So exciting. But the doubles has been delivering. I think watching Coco, who is partnered with Siniakova for this tournament, because this actually happened last minute, because she was supposed to be partnered with Taylor Townsend, but Taylor Townsend, I think, rolled her ankle.
Yeah, she's injured.
In her mat. Yeah, she's injured. She rolled her ankle in her qualifying and had to pull out. So Coco had to find a new partner last minute, and she partnered with Siniakova, whose partner is Storm Hunter, who's going to be out for a year, because when she was playing her Billie Jean King tie, she wasn't even, I think it was in practice. It wasn't even during a match. It was in practice. And I think she ruptured her Achilles and had to go into surgery and is out for the year. So Siniakova has kind of been bouncing around since with different partners, and she partnered with Coco Gauff for this. And now they're in the semifinals of the French Open. Coco Gauff and Siniakova play Dolehide and Krajicek next. And then Sarah Rani, who's partnered with Jasmine Paolini, they play Marta Kostyuk and Rus. So should be exciting.
Is that Arantxa Rus or Elena Gabriela Rus?
Yes, Arantxa Rus.
Arantxa Rus, yeah. There's Rus from Netherlands, and then there's Rusa from Romania.
That's been on the female side. There's also another pairing of Diana Schneider and Emma Navarro. They lost in their quarterfinals match today against Paolini and Irani, but I've enjoyed playing, watching them play through. My favorite on the men's side has been Thomas Mahach and Zenji Zhen. We're playing doubles together. Fun fact, Thomas Mahach and Siniakova are partners. So in real life. So it's funny that they're now, he got to the quarterfinals, she got to the semifinals. They were in mixed doubles together, but they lost their first round match. But yeah, I think the doubles have been really, really fun this tournament, but unfortunately, they haven't been given the limelight I think they deserve. You might remember a few episodes back, we talked to Will Buchek about double. This was before Madrid, before the Madrid Open. We talked to Will about doubles and the doubles changes coming to the ATP Tour and just about promoting doubles in general. So I wanted to bring up the doubles and at least mention that. And if you give it a watch, it's a lot of fun. And a lot of it has been free to watch on Tennis Channel T2. It's a free channel that they have. So they've been putting on the doubles for free. So it doesn't cost you anything. Watch some doubles. It's a lot of fun. And support those players.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been some really, really good doubles action this year at the French as well. And I've been trying to, I've been doing these watch lists on my own social media. And usually when the tournament winds down, I definitely try and squeeze in some doubles in there.
Yeah.
I think today's was a bit challenging because I also saw some wheelchair stuff that I thought looked really good.
Ooh.
Which, if you have never watched wheelchair tennis, by the way, you will marvel at the insane upper body strength these players have.
I'll see if I can find a video of it and maybe post it somewhere, but I think one of the best realizations for me about how hard wheelchair tennis was in Miami. They had a wheelchair mini tournament in the 1000. So, the second week of a 1000 event can be very kind of quiet. So they added a wheelchair tournament and they did a little social media thing with Yannick Sinner that I just happened to be there for. And they put Yannick Sinner in a wheelchair to try and hit against it was Alfie Hewitt, and they were hitting together, and Yannick Sinner could not obviously play in a wheelchair. It's hard getting from one side of the court to another to hit the ball in a wheelchair.
We need to do an episode on wheelchair tennis at some point.
Yes. No, we do. We really need to do one.
But one of the things that's quite cool about this is that Wimbledon actually has Alfie Hewitt as one of the promote people on the promotional posters for it. Wheelchair tennis is getting that significant probably because he's British and he and Gordon Reed are winning a lot. But they were promoting Alfie Hewitt about as much as any other player right now, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So bookmark this. We are going to do an episode soon about wheelchair tennis and give you the 411. Maybe we'll get a player on who can talk to us about it. So yeah, that is all we have for today. As of right now,
it's 5-4 in the second set, tie break. De Minaur was 4-love up in that tie break.
This is going to be a long match, guys.
Zverev is very tense right now. He's on a second serve at 5 points all.
Okay, so we'll leave you here. Please follow us on social media. I will post probably the winner of this match since they will be going into the semifinals. Leave us a comment if you're listening to this on a podcast network, either on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave us a comment, leave us a rating. We'll read those. And Nick, anything else to say?
No, I think we're all good. So we'll keep bringing you more tennis on the ground this week. We've got another mini pod coming up on 8th of June. And then another mini pod on the 9th of June where we'll wrap up the tournament.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.